Hi, welcome everyone to our movie talk about the Oscars. As you are filtering in and getting settled, we're going to have a few poll questions that we're going to ask you. So get settled. Think about your favorite films for the year, which of the Oscar nominations you like, which ones you hate, who's been overlooked. We will start tackling all of that. So just to begin with, we have a few Oscar trivia questions. We have no physical prizes to give you except for the satisfaction that you'll get them right or wrong. Just an FYI for all of you, I am in New Zealand attending the Fringe Festival here. So if I suddenly vanish from the screen, it just means that my Wi-Fi has gone out, and you will be in the capable hands of my co-host here tonight, who is Yazdi Pithavala. So I'm the host of the Cinema Junkie podcast, and Yazdi is the host and film critic, one of 3 at Movie Wallas. So let's get to a Oscar trivia question, our first one. So here we go. What year was the first Academy Awards presentation held? You can see the poll on the screen, and I'll also read this to you also. The answers are A, or the options are A, 1919, B, 1929, C, 1935, and D, 1945. So while we're waiting for people to come in, if you see that poll, feel free to click on the answer you think is correct, and we'll be revealing that in just a few moments. And again, if you're just coming in, we have a poll up that you can answer the questions. And we can sort of officially start here. Welcome to the KPBS Insider Movie Talk. I am Beth Accomando. I am the KPBS Arts and Culture reporter, and I am also the host of the Cinema Junkie podcast. And today, my co-host and partner here talking about the Oscars is Yazdi Pithavala, and he is a film critic and also one of the 3 podcasters on the Movie Wallas podcast. So if you answered the questions for the first Academy Award trivia, it was what year was the first Academy Awards presentation held? And the correct answer is 1929, and 53% of you got that right. So congratulations. And we will have another question for you. And this one, I'm going to read it to you because we all misread it when we first took this quiz ourselves. So listen carefully. What was the language of the first foreign language film to win the Best Picture award? Was it Italian, French, Korean, or Japanese?
So the first foreign language film to simultaneously also win the Best Picture award. Yeah.
Well, not necessarily simultaneously, but what was
a foreign film which won the best? Yeah, the foreign film which won. Yeah.
Yes. So, okay, we've got our answers here, and you're going to be surprised. And again, this is because if you don't listen carefully to the question, what was the language of the first foreign language film to win the Best Picture award? So the correct answer is Korean, because this was the film Parasite. This was not the first foreign language film award. So anyway, that was a slightly tricky question. So we have another one for you. And this is, who was the first actor to refuse the Best Actor award? Was it A, George C. Scott, B, Marlon Brando, C, Daniel Day-Lewis, D, Jack Nicholson? So take your time to think of an answer for that. Get your answers in. And the most popular answer was Marlon Brando. 78% of you picked that. However, It was George C. Scott who first refused a Best Actor Academy Award, but he was far less flamboyant in his refusal. He simply did not show up to the awards and responded by saying he was not interested in keeping the Oscar. But for those of you who may remember, Marlon Brando sent Sacheen Littlefeather to reject the award. So that was a much more public refusal. And we have one final question before we get into the meat of this discussion for this year's Academy Awards. So the last Academy Awards trivia question is, which person has won the most Academy Awards in history? And this includes honorary or special non-competitive awards. So was it John Ford, Francis Ford Coppola, Clint Eastwood, Walt Disney, or Ethan and Joel Coen? So make your selections and we'll reveal the answers. And you are correct. 44% of the people who answered chose Walt Disney, and that is correct. Walt Disney has won more than 20, or has won 26 awards, and that's more than twice the count of any runner-up. So you guys did fairly well on this Oscar trivia poll. So I want to welcome you again to the KPBS Insider. This is a quarterly benefit for KPBS Directors Club and Producer Club members, providing unique behind-the-scenes access to station programs, projects, and people. So thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting KPBS. And first of all, I just want to welcome Yazdi. Thanks for joining me here.
Very happy to be here. Very happy to be here. Can talk about them films forever. So let's get going.
All right. And just to remind people, I'm Beth Accomando, arts and culture reporter for KPBS and host of the KPBS Cinema Junkie podcast. And Yazdi Pithavala is a film critic and podcaster with Movie Wallas. And if you've been listening to Midday Edition, you may recognize his voice because he is frequently my partner in crime for talking about movies on the midday movie segments. So unlike the radio show, though, this is an event where you actually get to participate here. So you will have an opportunity to be part of the conversation, and you can put your questions in the Q&A box. Please don't put them in the chat. It'll take us longer to get to them, but put them in the Q&A box, and then we'll bring those into the conversation as it seems fit or as we have time. And I just want to say, I know passions can run high about movies, and let's all respect each other's opinions. They may all be different, and we all like different things. That's part of what makes it fun. But yes, let's all be respectful of all that. So first of all, let's just get started getting into the Oscars right now. This year is the 95th Academy Awards. They're almost hitting a century. Looking at this year's nominations, is there anything, Yazdi, that kind of hits you in particular, or that makes it noteworthy in any way?
I think the nominations themselves, I think there are no clear frontrunners. I just like that there's a lot of diversity. I mean, it's not the kind of nominations where it seems like one film has, captured everything. And what I like even more, Beth, is that very often by the time the Oscars roll around, they're the last race, like right in the Derby. So by the time the Oscars roll around, the major winners are a foregone conclusion, because they've been winning the previous other, awards at the previous stops. But I think this year, except for one actor award, all the others are kind of totally up in the air. Any person can win them. So I really like that going into the Oscars, at least in the main categories, it's very hard to tell who's going to win, and that makes for a great time watching the ceremonies.
I just want to remind people that if you have any technical support questions, please use the chat box or utilize the raise hand function, and we'll do our best to assist you. Depending on what your issue is, you might be directed to the Zoom help desk for technical support. And again, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A box. I did want to start with a short clip here because it's not very often that San Diego can feel a close connection to an Academy Award nominee. But this year, Leslie Patterson, who is nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay for All Quiet on the Western Front, is actually a San Diego State University graduate. And she is also one of the producers on All Quiet on the Western Front. So although she may not win a personal award for Best Adapted Screenplay, if the film wins, she has a real stake in that movie. But I got a chance to interview her, and the interesting thing about her is she's also a triathlete and a world-class one. She is a world champion, and she has basically used her ability to win triathlons to finance the options for her film. So here's the deal: when you want to adapt a book, it's not like an original screenplay where you can just write something and do whatever you want. If you want to adapt something, you have to pay for options for a book. If it takes you 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, you have to pay these options every year. And that can run into thousands of dollars for the options, as well as legal fees and all that. So I want to play this clip from her where she talks about how they were getting to the last time the options were due. They didn't have any money. They weren't sure if they were going to be able to keep their option for the film. And she was about to enter a race. So here's Leslie Patterson. Let's hear the clip.
Yeah, pretty crazy stories along the way. The biggest one, of course, is when the option was almost due, and I flew out to Costa Rica for a big race, and was very, very fit, convinced I was going to get some good prize money to pay the option. And then the day before, I broke my shoulder. So had a heart-to-heart with my husband and figured out that we could probably have a bash at me just trying to get through the swim with one arm. And my biking and running was so strong, maybe I could make some prize money to at least cover our expenses and hopefully earn something towards the payment. And lo and behold, I won the damn thing. So it was definitely an exercise in perseverance.
And that's perseverance that paid off for her. It's interesting to note too that the film is in German, and they had help translating the script she wrote by hiring a German director who made the film. And, she actually fell in love with that book when she was in high school and was so passionate about it that she felt that she wanted to return to this story, even though it's set during World War I, but she felt that it would connect with audiences. Yazdi, what do you think about this Best Adapted Screenplay category and her chances of winning?
After I watched the movie, and the movie is very effective, I remember having read the book very early on, and it seemed, I'd forgotten most of it, but it seemed like the ending was not what I recalled what it was. So I did go back and check. And indeed, I'm not going to give anything away. The ending of the movie is quite different than how it plays out in the book. So I think they have taken quite a big swing with that in terms of, deviating somewhat. And also, there is this whole part in the movie where the leaders of Germany as well as France kind of are deciding whether they should end the war or not. That's not in the book as well. So I think by virtue of the fact that they have kind of tried to give a different spin on this, I think there is a fair degree of skill which has gone in. So I'm happy that it's nominated for the Best Adapted Screenplay. Is it the best in the lot? Maybe not, but I think it's definitely deserving. What do you think?
I did like the additions they made to it, because I think, one of the things about All Quiet on the Western Front is it's a very powerful anti-war film. And it's anti-war in the sense that we don't get any heroes. We don't really get a sense of it's interesting because it's from the German point of view. So a lot of, for Americans, we've looked at them as the enemy. So it doesn't give us a lot of very typical things to latch onto, and there is no sense of victory at the end. And I think the additions they made in terms of showing how the politicians, they wanted to have armistice on 11/11/11, and to do that, or I think the time 11 a.m. On the 11th day of the 11th month,
right.
And that meant thousands more people died simply because they wanted, something that would look good on paper or look, have some sort of resonance in history. So I think that addition just hammers home kind of the message of that film. And I think those additions do make it a stronger film. It's interesting, the adapted screenplay, I just don't feel that it's as strong as the original screenplay category. As much fun as Glass Onion and Top Maverick are they really well-written scripts? I do like the screenplay for Living. This is an adaptation of an Akira Kurosawa film, which beautifully translates it from Japan to England. But it doesn't seem quite as interesting as the original screenplay. But, if we want to take a look at the original screenplay category, that, to me, I had more films to consider in that category.
Yeah, agreed. I think the adapted screenplay is a little bit softer in terms of, skill involved. And that makes sense. The original screenplay, I think every single one of them is truly original. And I don't mean original in that somebody wrote it for the first time. I mean original in terms of what the screenplay is tackling. So the 5 movies which are nominated for Best Original Screenplay are The Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, and Tar. And I think each of those, the script of each of those movies is exceptional in terms of needing, in terms of getting to what the primary thesis of each movie is.
Well, and we also have a Triangle of Sadness on that.
Oh, yes. I forgot that one. And that's the fun one. Yes. Yes.
Well, and I mean, especially some of these. I mean, Tar, I think we've talked about Tar before. We both love this movie. Is a really exceptionally well-crafted script. And it's a challenging script. It doesn't lay out in simple terms what it's about. It doesn't tell you, a lot of times films will kind of let you know what the director's point of view is or what the script's point of view is. And in this, we're not sure exactly where the director stands in terms of his opinion of this lead character, Tar. This is Cate Blanchett as a world-class conductor who is at a point, the pinnacle of her career, and basically spirals out of control downward. But this is one of your favorite films. So what do you like about it?
There is first of all, at the craft level, it's just, everything. There is nothing sloppy about the movie. There is nothing very thought about and very, very carefully implemented. The movie is notable for as much as it leaves out as what information it provides. And it's so much easier to kind of walk the audience's hand and say, now this happened and that happened, and you should feel this way. And here are the musical cues which should tell you, whether, how you should be feeling about it. Todd Field refuses to do any of that. It will not condescend to the audience, and it just presents the facts, and it presents limited facts. And I think that reflects reality. In the real world, we don't have access to all the facts. We seldom completely know even another human being. And by virtue of this limited information, it's asking you to judge this character at every time. So I was just fascinated watching it the whole time by playing this game of, how is this person bad? Are they good? What would I do in this situation? And exactly as you said, and we've talked about this before, there is a cold precision to it, to how the whole movie is being put together. There is a detachment which kind of holds the audience member in that chair to judge this character, and I love that.
Yeah, I really love film.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, I
was gonna
really
say,
love films that-
Okay, let me just say this. I've spoken with many people about the ending of the film, and they've all thought that the movie actually does go a particular way. It's making a very definite assessment of her situation at the end. And it's since I've talked with you and some other people that they have told me that no, actually the movie does not. The movie again is just giving you the facts, and you decide whether this is punishment or exhilaration at the end. So I love it for that. Sorry, go ahead, Beth.
No problem. Yeah, I love films that don't tell you how to feel and how to think. I
Mhm.
mean, to you people who are in the audience here, think about movies and like how music plays out, and when music is telling you that you need to be sad or you need to be happy, or a scene kind of clearly lays out that this person's telling the truth and this person's not. And what's great about Tar is we're never quite sure of a lot of the facts and information. And part of what I feel the film is about is this sense of perspective and, who's telling the story, what side are you seeing, how are you seeing the story? There's a very key scene that plays out in a single take, which is then repeated in a very heavily edited sequence. And again, I think part of what it's pointing out is, if you see something play out one way and then the information is shuffled and presented in a different way, how does that change your point of view? And I think that is, as somebody who loves filmmaking, like that film is so much on a certain level about filmmaking, about how you edit, how you shoot, how you, lead people along with a script and give them tidbits of information, and they have to, like Hansel and Gretel or something, you have to like follow all the little pieces of the trail that are left behind. Anyway, I do adore that film. And, a couple of these other screenplays like Banshees of Inisherin, I know some people have that divides some people on that, but it's such a brilliant script in terms of presenting a set of characters and situation that we really don't feel we've seen before. You may scratch your head and go like, why do these two men who have been friends all their life, suddenly one of them decides we can't be friends? And, for me, I think the film really reflects kind of Irish history, like what's been going on there. Why do people who live side by side, have this antagonism and conflict and yet, and it's interesting too, because I think it also captures the Irish sense of like, there's this huge sense of tragedy combined with a huge sense of humor.
Humor, yeah. Yeah, it's funny, Beth, that you mentioned that it reflects the history. And even as you were saying it, it made perfect sense. I've never heard anybody else say that. And it completely makes sense. I, in my own small way, saw the movie as being, so it's about two men, an older person and a younger person who have been lifelong friends. And one fine day, the older man just says, I don't want to be friends with you. And that's literally the entire script of the movie. And it takes that premise and takes it to ridiculous lengths. But for me, it represents any relationship where two people come at it initially with some degree of liking, but after a certain point, one person wants out. And it could be with somebody in your family, it could be a romantic relationship. And what do you do with somebody who will just not take no for an answer? Or, how do you deal with somebody who, is so eager to be with you when you don't want to be with them? So it deals with, and you can apply this to your parents, to your friends, to whoever. And, this director is known for making films which are extremely violent. And it uses violence, especially in the last half of the movie, to really startling effect. So it's the funniest movie I've seen this year, and it's also the most wistful in terms of how things play out, and exceptional acting as well. So yeah, I love Banshees of Inisherin as well. And in my experience, those who have an issue with this movie usually cannot accept where the movie goes in the last act, as a logical continuation of two people who just don't want to be together.
Yeah. And one of the other favorites I have there is Triangle of Sadness, which is one of these, as they refer to, eat the rich spoof,
Yeah.
which has some of the most hilarious moments of cinema from last year, as well as, some really pointed satire at the whole class system and just, how we, how workers and clients interact, and one of the funniest scenes I think too is, Woody Harrelson as the captain of a very, capitalistic boat and luxury cruise, having an argument with a Russian capitalist about Marxism. I mean, and again, what's so much fun in the film is kind of these layers and like swapping out of expectations and presenting stuff in a way where you start to see them kind of fresh and new.
Yeah, this is definitely one of, every year there are, of the movies which get nominated, there are some themes which emerge. And this year, not just with the Oscars, but in general, there were many themes. One of the themes was indeed that there's been a series of movies made about Eat the Rich, essentially where it's blaming, the privileged and the affluent for a lot of the problems that we have in our society today. And I think Triangle of Sadness is probably the broadest of all of those movies, but I also think it's the most well thought out and the one which has the most fun with it. Glass Onion is the other one. The movie The Menu is the other one. And there was a movie you and I watched, Beth, not too recently, Infinity Pool. These are all movies about, considering the rich in terms of being problematic for everything that ails us. But I also like the Triangle of Sadness, as broad as it is, has kind of these three distinct parts of the movie. They're almost like three different movies. Initially, it starts off as a satire of, celebrity culture and of how we kind of, the young and the beautiful have the most cachet, if you will, in the current world. And then it becomes this, this group of people on this cruise ship where there is, upstairs and downstairs, the haves versus the have-nots. And then the last part of the movie is after the ship is, after the ship is shipwrecked and they all land up on an island where your wealth doesn't mean anything. And the currency of value becomes your survival skills. And it's everything just topples completely in terms of now the people at the highest order is the people who have the most survival skills. So I really like the structure of it. And I don't want to give anything away, but I think the movie also has one of the best endings. I mean, it literally ends mid-sentence, if I'm not mistaken, or it just ends abruptly. And I've been thinking about it and talking with friends for a long, long time in terms of what your takeaway was from that ending. So it's a very brave ending. It may turn a lot of people off, but it's also the kind of ending which you keep talking about, after you've left the movie. And I know one of the questions that we have had is, which film this year would you consider a do not miss film? Triangle of Sadness would be on my list for sure. Tar, Banshees of Inisherin.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Yeah, we have one question here from Julie, which was, which film this year would each of us consider a do not miss film? I would also add a do not miss film that is not nominated, not anywhere on the Oscars radar at all, which was a very dark and bleak film by animator Phil Tippett. It's a stop motion animation film called Mad God. It was a 30-year project for him. It is a bit bleak because it is in some ways about the fact that we are insignificant and everything we do is meaningless. But the fact that every grain of sand in that film was placed there by a human hand and it looks absolutely spectacular to me. Like, I was so exhilarated after watching that film, even though thematically it's a downer. Artistically, it was just so bold and audacious that I came out of that theater just kind of buzzing with a love of movies. Yeah,
if there ever was a movie which was a labor of love, and I wouldn't have known about this film, Beth, unless you had mentioned this to me, but it's such a labor of love, knowing that every little thing you're seeing on the screen, like you've said, has been put together by hand. Somebody has, it just blows your mind. Yeah, I mean, the other theme which has kind of emerged for me this year is that we've seen a lot of well-known filmmakers kind of reflect on their own childhood and how they grew up. And, last year, Kenneth Branagh made Belfast, which was about, his childhood as he was growing up. And then very famously this year, Steven Spielberg has made The Fabelmans, which is based on his own experience growing up as a child and how he got interested in making films. Which other movie? Oh, and then Sam Mendes made Empire of Light, which was also about, him growing up in the 80s in London with cinema. But of all of those movies of kind of these filmmakers reflecting back on their childhood, the one which I really admire is the movie Armageddon Time, which was made by James Gray, and he is looking back on his experience growing up in New York City in the 80s, and certain racial tensions which were happening, which impacted his friendship with his best friend. And it's just a very authentic, genuine, well thought out film. And again, that movie has not made it anywhere on any of the nominations list, but it's got a great cast. Anthony Hopkins is in it, Anne Hathaway is in it. It's definitely one I enjoyed a lot.
Well, and this is not a film about reflecting on one's childhood, but I would say that David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future is a film that is a complete reflection on his career. If you're familiar with his films and you watch this, you're going to see references to a number of past films, and just a sense, the main character by Viggo Mortensen, who deserved a Best Actor nomination, he's an artist, but he's an artist in this future world where surgery is kind of the tool that's used, and the body is the canvas. It's a very interesting film. It's a world in which there is no pain. So a lot of the complaints about, Cronenberg's films being brutal or disgusting or something for their body horror, we're in a completely different environment for this to take place, but the character is constantly reflecting on what a person does for their art, what that art means, what's the creative process, what's important about it, how do you communicate to the audience, what does the audience take away, who are your false imitators, I mean, all of that. And it's a complete kind of, to me, this look back on his entire career.
Agreed. I mean, you see him referencing back, all the seminal films that are part of his portfolio. Yeah. And it's got such a cool cast. It's got Kristen Stewart in it, playing very much against type. Viggo Mortensen is in it, and Lea Seydoux. Yeah, it's a really fun film. Yeah, very unpredictable.
Yes. And also in this original screenplay category is the film that has the most nominations this year, and one that we both enjoyed, which is Everything Everywhere All at Once. And it has a number of nominations. I want to play a short clip from this film before we talk about it. This is Michelle Yeoh. She plays a very kind of put upon laundromat owner who is facing taxes and discovers that apparently she is the key to saving the universe. So here is a clip of Michelle Yeoh. She gets to display both her martial arts skills and her comic timing. So let's hear this clip from Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Go. What happened? I think they lost their powers.
All All right, this was one of my top 10 films for this year. And the film has won 11 nominations, I believe. I know that there were some complaints this year about not enough people of color being nominated because there were a couple of very significant African-American actresses who did not receive nominations. Viola Davis for The Woman King, and also Daniela Delwire for Till. But as someone who is of Chinese origin, I have to say I'm very happy to see that there were a record number of Asian nominees this year. And one of them, of course, is Michelle Yeoh. And I do think she is well deserving of this award. As much as I love Cate Blanchett's performance in Tar, I do think that this is a unique role that deserves some sort of recognition for putting her through the multiverse.
Yeah, I mean, Michelle Yeoh has been doing incredible, amazing work, you know, in Asia for the longest time, and even before she first came to prominence, you know, here in the US. You know, maybe with the James Bond movie, maybe with Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and then most recently with Crazy Rich Asians. I think this movie is such a gift to her, because I think she's in the movie almost the entire time and she's never not doing something. It's a very physical role, and it kind of draws upon her tremendous, probably unparalleled ability, you know, as an athlete and as an acrobat and as somebody who is, you know, amazing with martial arts, while at the same time literally giving her a multiverse to act in, right? To be an actress, and she gets to be every kind of person in this particular movie. And yeah, I mean, I like you, Beth. I'm so torn. I think it's generally known that the Best Actress award is neck and neck between Cate Blanchett, who gives this flawless, technically superior performance in Tar, and Michelle Yeoh and Everything Everywhere All at Once. So my brain says Cate Blanchett, but my heart says Michelle Yeoh, and I think my heart always wins. It's she deserves this recognition. If anybody does, she does. And I love that this movie, we can talk more about Everything Everywhere. It is a divisive movie, but you know, it also garnered Best Supporting Actress for Stephanie Yu. It garnered Best Supporting Actor for Ke Huy Quan. And then Hong Chow got a Best Supporting Actress nomination for the movie The Whale. So granted, maybe in terms of African-American representation, maybe things might be lacking with these nominations, but certainly from an Asian perspective, I think we may have the most number of Asian nominees in the acting category, certainly this year. So that's something to be very happy about.
And then Daniel Kwan is one of the two Daniels who
Yes.
directed it. So we also have that. Although I do wish Hong Chow had been nominated for The Menu instead of The Whale, which I thought she was far superior in that and far more nuanced. And
yes,
but just wonderful. Just a reminder to people, if you do have questions, put them in that Q&A box and we'll answer them for you. Another thing, another one of the Asian nominees is actually for Best Song, which is for RRR. So let's just hear a clip from this, because if you have not seen this movie, it is one of the most like joyously celebratory film about the act of making movies. Like, it just reminds you how much fun it is to go to a cinema with an audience, everybody caught up in the action, cheering, gasping. And this song is so joyous. I mean, they've been screening the film recently and people just leap to the stage and fill it, and the audience is like entirely dancing. So let's hear a clip of the Oscar nominated song from RRR, and here it is.
Not salsa, not flamenco, my brother.
Do you know? Not kutu? What's not to kutu?
கருந்தோலு கும்பலோட பட்டி காட்டு கூத்த காட்டு போடு நம்ம தாளம் ஒண்ணு போட்டு நாட்டு கூத்த காட்டு சிலம்பாட்ட சுத்தி காட்டு காத்த ரெண்ட வெட்டி காட்டு சல்லி கட்டு காளையாட்டு கூறு கொம்பில் குத்தி காட்டு நாலு காலு நாலு தோலு மிரட்டி தூளு கிளப்பி காட்டு ஏ பாட்டங்கூத்து ஏ பாட்டங்கூத்து ஏ பாட்டங்கூத்து நாட்டு 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 கூத்த காட்டு நாட்டு 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 வீட்டு கூத்த காட்டு நாட்டு 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 பாட்டு படிச்சு தப்படிச்சு காட்டு நாட்டு 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 வெற்றி கொடிய நாட்டு வீரம் காட்டு.
I've had enough of this nonsense! You two, out!
No, Jake, I've had enough of your bullying. Go!
Okay, apparently I can't turn my camera back on. So I will say that this has, wait, let's see.
There you go.
Every time I see that scene, it just brings a smile to my face, like the energy and the just craziness of it is just joyous.
It's just exhilarating. It is. I mean, I think you'd have to be made of stone to not feel something if you're watching this. And you know, this movie RRR, if folks don't know about it, it's on Netflix. You can watch it anytime, and it's the most maximalist of maximalist cinema. I mean, there's nothing even remotely close to reality in this, but this movie has to be seen to be believed in terms of just the milestone action scenes in it. There's like 5 or 6 of them, and they just, each one truly is mind-blowing. It is mass entertainment at its best, I think. Yeah, you know, this movie was a pretty expensive movie to make. It has actors who are from South Indian film industry royalty, and also the movie made a lot of money, but you know, they were very, very smart to kind of drop it on Netflix, so it immediately got a global audience, and it gained a lot of popularity very quickly. And so there was an expectation that India would submit this movie as its selection for the Oscars, but I think there's always some confusion. A lot of people think, well, why wasn't this movie why wasn't it picked up for Best International Film or Best Foreign Film? And the reason was India did not submit this movie. India submitted another movie called The Last Film Show, or The Last Film Show. That's the name of the movie. So if each country is meant to pick one of its movies and submit it to the Oscars for consideration for Best Foreign Film, and India did not submit this movie, so obviously, you know, it was not eligible for the Best Foreign Film or the Best International Film, but it did manage to score a nomination for Best Song, and it's certainly the most exhilarating of all the other songs. I think the other songs nominated in the Best Song category are kind of more generic, you know, songs which typically play at, you know, while the credits are rolling at the end of the movie. This particular song is completely a part of the movie. In fact, this comes at about the halfway point in the movie, and it kind of sets the premise for what's going to come ahead. So it's very crucial to the whole film.
Yes. And so, yeah, to return to kind of the Oscar rules, you know, they extended the Best Picture nominations from 5 to, I think it's 9 or 10 now,
10.
In part because they said they wanted to make room for more populist films, more, you know, pop entertainment films, which RRR is completely. So, you know, I feel like if you've got Maverick up there, if you've got Avatar up there, why isn't RRR? And yes, so the Academy voting is each country gets to submit a single film, which raises a whole lot of politics in terms of, you know, who's jockeying for position in each of these countries. You know, countries like Japan, Korea, India have a lot of films that they could be submitting. And so just so people understand, a film can only be nominated in Best Foreign Language Film if the country submits it. But any film can be nominated in any other category, regardless of what language it's in. So RRR could have easily have been nominated for Best Picture this year if Academy members had been so inclined. But it just received the Best Song. We have a question from Lisa. She wants to know if there are any live Oscar watch parties happening on Sunday. And I'm not sure if you mean particularly like in San Diego where you can go and partake in something. I don't know of any right now. There used to be, like pre-pandemic, I had a better sense of what was going on. Since the pandemic, I'm not quite sure if those things are still happening. I know that like Cinema Under the Stars has done an Oscar watch party a few times. And I can't think offhand this year of any that are going on, but so I apologize on that.
While you were talking, Beth, I quickly looked up. I wasn't aware of any either, but the Lot, the cinema, the Lot, they have one at Liberty Station and one in La Jolla. Both of them have a $60 live Oscars showing where you would sit, and they have those very, very comfortable seats, and it includes food, 3-course meal, a cocktail reception, walking the red carpet, and $60 seems like, I don't know, maybe not such a bad price to pay for that. So definitely they have that. And then the San Diego Film Festival, the San Diego International Film Festival also has an event for the Oscars, a paid event. So there are a few, I think.
You can find some.
Yeah, you can find some.
So did you feel that there were, did you feel that there were any films that you felt particularly incensed about that may have been left off from the I mean, for me, films like 2 Korean films, Decision to Leave and Broker, and then Crimes of the Future and Mad God are kind of my films that I was like, why didn't the Academy appreciate these as much as I did? But did you have any omissions that you really feel strongly about?
Yeah, I like you. I think I'm kind of disappointed with the Best Foreign Film lineup. All 5 films that were picked up, with the exception of one maybe, they're kind of safe choices. And, the Academy is known for making safe choices, but, there were so many other exciting, barrier pushing foreign films which were released this year. The movie Return to Seoul, which is just now in theaters, is such a delicate, sweet kind of, I haven't seen anything like it. That movie didn't secure a nomination. Like you, The Decision to Leave is such a wonderful movie from a master who keeps surprising us again and again. Again, one of the best endings of any movie I've seen this year. There was an Iranian movie called Holy Spider, which is sort of a 70s serial killer movie combined with a commentary on oppressive ruling, and how it's based on a real life event where in the 80s there was the serial killer in Iran who was killing prostitutes, and he was apprehended. And to everyone's surprise, the people actually supported the serial killer, and they wanted him freed because they thought that he was doing a favor by killing these prostitutes. So it just becomes this really strong political statement about, how the legal system kind of can be contorted, and people can be played for things. So there were so many interesting movies which were available for picking for foreign film this year, and the ones that were picked are relatively safe. I think the only one, of the ones which are nominated in the Best Foreign Film that I really think is inventive is the movie EO, which is a Polish film about a donkey. It's kind of very clearly inspired by Robert Bresson's O Hazard Balthazar. And the movie just follows this donkey who escapes a carnival, and kind of this donkey roams around Poland and then Italy and meets different people. And, through the eyes of how The People Treat the Donkey, you get a sense of, the commentary about how people treat animals and about climate change and about our general apathy towards anything other than humans. So, and it's just visually one of the most striking films I've seen this year. And I'm kicking myself I didn't watch it in the theater when it was playing. So anyway, I know I'm rambling, but I think there's so many movies out there that that I wish had been recognized in some form or the other.
We'll talk about seeing films in a theater. Decision to Leave is a film I wish I had seen in a theater, because there really is so much craft in how he creates shots, where I actually watched the film twice on a screener, because there were scenes where things were going on like in reflections and in small details. And did I miss that? Wait, like I want to, and yeah, I wish I had seen that in a cinema. And, it's interesting because as film critics, we get screeners to watch during the awards season. And as those screeners are arriving, I always think, if a film I love doesn't arrive as a screener, it feels like its chances of getting any kind of Oscar nomination are just out the window, because you need access to those voters. But of course, this year we also have the interesting situation of Andrea Riseborough, who got a nomination for a film, To Leslie, which if any of you in the audience have seen, I'd be curious to find out how many of you have seen that film, because it's one of these films that got next to no distribution, played in San Diego, I think 1 week at the Digital Gym Cinema. But, she did a lot of campaigning amongst her fellow actors. And for those of you who don't know, the largest voting block in the Academy is the acting branch. So, if you can tap into that branch to support you, you really do get a stronger chance of winning. But, this is a case where it was a film that there weren't screeners put out, the studio wasn't backing it, but she pushed for it. And, she got an Oscar nomination, which was reviewed by the Academy board to see if she broke any rules in terms of, how she campaigned for that. We have one person, Joe says he bought the film last night and watched it and really enjoyed it. Well, good. And, this is part of, people will say Oscars don't mean anything. They're ridiculous. Why do we, spend our time talking about them? And it's true for us, as just viewers. But, to a film like that, Joe probably would not have checked that film out without that Oscar nomination.
Yeah, I just love that. Unlike you, Beth, I haven't had a chance to see it either. I just love that it has kind of broken the mold. For the longest time, especially in the last 20, 30 years, the thinking is that you need to spend millions of dollars, launch a proper Oscar campaign and hold screenings, and you need to send out screeners to everyone and get organized parties and all of that. And Year was a movie which only made, I think, $27,000 totally in profit anywhere in the world. And I believe there were a group of actors who saw the movie, they were impressed by it, and they themselves hosted, viewing parties of this movie in their own homes, and word got around through social media amongst the acting group, and enough people voted for it that it secured a nomination. So I like that it kind of questions the long thought belief that you need this giant Oscar campaign to get anything nominated.
But I guess you can't be a curmudgeon like Phil Tippett and get Mad God nominated.
No.
Damn it.
Yes.
We only have a couple minutes left, so if anybody has an urgent question, pop it in right now and we can get to it. Otherwise, we probably won't. Any final thoughts about who might win, who might not win? I have a terrible time predicting Oscars. The more films I see, the less able I am to make any kind of accurate prediction because my heart gets in the way.
Yeah, my heart gets in the way too. I would be very surprised if Everything Everywhere All at Once did not win some major. I think it's going to win Best Picture, probably Best Director as well. Like we talked in the Best Actress category, it's going to be neck and neck between Michelle Yeoh and Cate Blanchett. The Best Actor field seems to be a three-way tie between Brendan Fraser for The Whale, Austin Butler for Elvis, and Colin Farrell for Banshees of Inisherin. So I think the only one which is in the bag is Hae Kwan for Everything Everywhere All at Once for Best Supporting Actor. He has consistently won all the awards leading up to the Oscars.
We have a couple last minute questions. Lisa wants to know if either of us have watched Elvis and our thoughts. I think we've both seen it.
Mhm.
I am a fan of Baz Luhrmann. I did think that the first half of that film was brilliant, and it was able to really capture what Elvis was like, you know, at the beginning, just how shocking he was to people. And, you know, to us nowadays, that seems ridiculous, but, you know, people were shocked seeing him on, you know, the Ed Sullivan Show or, you know, coming out. So I think the first half of that film was brilliant. As the Tom Hanks character started to dominate, it just got to be very kind of dour and dragged out and just difficult to watch on multiple levels. So I think it was a mixed bag for me. But the first half of like the first hour I thought was brilliant.
Yeah, I liked Elvis as well. I think it's Baz Luhrmann often gets a bad rap because he's, again, such a maximalist director. He cannot, there's not a subtle bone in his body. But when you match somebody like him with making a biopic on Elvis, his maximalism really pays off. The entire movie is like one big, you know, very closely cut video. So it really works to tell this particular story. And agree, the first half is much better. Yeah.
And I don't want to miss taking this question because I love it. Any horror films that deserved a nod? Yes. I would highly recommend, if you like horror, Speak No Evil was on my top 10 list, and I think it should have been nominated for screenplay or Best Picture. I think it's a expertly calibrated horror film, and a very unexpected kind. And then my big regret for horror films not getting nominated is I think Mia Goth should have gotten one for Pearl. She was brilliant. So those would be my two. Do you have any, Yazdi? I know you're a little bit less inclined to go to horror.
I'm getting better. I like the movie X as well, which was, you know, part of the same universe as Pearl. And then thanks to you, yes, I saw Speak No Evil, which was great. The Infinity Pool, which came out, actually it came out in 2023. I really like that.
I think that's this year.
Yeah.
And that's David Cronenberg's son who directed that. And as I say, the apple did not fall far from the tree, but Brandon Cronenberg has a unique voice in cinema. So I'm sorry, we have to wrap this up. I hope you in the audience will check out some of the films that we loved, because I think that's the main reason why we're film critics. It's less about, you know, criticizing a film and more about being excited about films we want you to come and see. So thank you, Yazdi Pithavala of Movie Wallas, for joining us and talking about movies.
Thank you.
We will see how our favorite films do at the Oscars. They will be this Sunday. The telecast is 5 p.m. on ABC. I want to thank all of you who joined us this evening for coming. KPBS would not exist without your support from members like you. So we appreciate you coming to this and for being supporters. We have more KPBS Insider events coming up in 2023. So please look out for more information about them in your email box. It's been great to connect with all of you, and thank you for the questions. I hope you join us for many more member events. Until then, good night and see you at the movies.